Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. We're now an hour and 33 minutes into this Thursday broadcast. We're simulcasting at prisonplanet.tv, live for prisonplanet.tv viewers. Okay, the last caller said, why do we see the G20 now meeting every few months? In fact, pull up on screen for people, just type into the search engine the term, banking heads meet in secret in Australia. Remember that 2 months ago? 27 banking heads of the G20 and 7 private mega banks all met in secret. Well, I mean, going back to 1954, Bilderberg has released part of the minutes of their first meeting. And they said, through stealth, through economic trade deals, we're going to create the Asian Union, the North American Union, and the European Union. And we are then going to merge those three. They've already set up the North American Union by stealth. The EU and the Asian Union are all operating. And we have this in my film Endgame, Bush actually giving a speech with Merkel and Barroso of the EU, saying we are now merging the North American Union with the European Union through this Atlantic Agreement. So they publicly admit they're doing this, but then separately have armies of pundits out there saying if you talk about global government run by banks, you're crazy, it doesn't exist, and you're probably a terrorist. And when I had Nightline here earlier in the week, I was trying to show them clips of Herman von Rompuy. I was trying to show them clips of Gordon Brown, of Ban Ki-moon saying global government's here, world governance is here, and it's going to be run by private banks. And they're going to raise VAT taxes on us. They're going to have carbon taxes on us. It's like when I had Rothschild, the heir to the Rothschild fortune on, one of the head environmentalists out there land grabbing. And he said there is no such thing as a carbon tax. Even though at the time he'd been on other TV shows promoting a carbon tax and calling for global government, for my audience, the disdain was it doesn't exist. So we have an argument about whether it exists or not, instead of about who's setting up the world government. Is it tyrannical? Do we want it? Do we have a say in it? And so the G20 is meeting now every month or so, with the Army called out in England, the Army called out in the U.S., the Army being called out in Canada, the Army being called out in Europe on the continent. No protesting's allowed. People are arrested. There's surveillance everywhere because these are the true controllers. The finance ministers of the 20 industrialized nations, who all are former Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Bank of England executives. They're private bank holders. They themselves, in the banking bailouts, which are really just banking robberies, openly get hundreds of millions, in some cases billions of dollars apiece of the bailout money. And then they won't even tell Congress or the Parliament where all the money went. So, I mean, think about how outrageous this is. So I hate to even get into this subject without playing clip after clip after clip. But you can just search engine Herman von Rompuy, head of the EU, global governance. And you'll get clip after clip after clip and the documents. Video, audio, government documents, Copenhagen Treaty, you name it. You can type in Herman, not just Herman von Rompuy, but Ban Ki-moon, Gordon Brown, Barack Obama, Barroso, Merkel, Sarkozy. I mean, there are hundreds of these in the last year where they're just coming out in the open. And so they're having more and more meetings because they're at the end. They're now hammering out the VAT taxes, the financial VAT taxes, the Tobin taxes, the global regulatory system that is a global governance model where the countries get lobbied and financed and paid off to sign their sovereignty away to an open world government run and governed by private banks. And they stalled the public with Rush Limbaugh and ABC News and the rest of them for all these years saying none of this exists. And now they're saying, okay, it exists, but it's not kosher to talk about it or to oppose it. And so just the latest video, I mean, there are new videos constantly from Davos, and the list just goes on and on. Did you guys find the secret banking article out of Australia? Well, let's put it back up for people again, because I want to read that headline. Again, these are secret bankers who meet in secret to really set the policy. They'll meet in secret at Bilderberg. They'll meet in secret at Trilateral Commission meetings. We've stolen their internal documents before. Jim Tucker and others have. We know. That's how years before they go public with something, We already know what they're planning. There it is, secret summit of top bankers. So they have secret summits and actually agree on what they're going to do. Then they have public PR stunts where they come out and say, we've got to have banking reform. We've got to stop the big private brokerage firms and investment banks from selling derivatives and destroying the global financial order. Meanwhile, the entire leadership of the G20 are running this and are involved in it and making money and getting power out of it. So it's like having mobsters sit over a trial of themselves, and then they lie to the public and say this is going to fix the problem when it only gives them more control. So they create every crisis. That's in the Goldman Sachs emails. They create the crisis, and then they offer the solution. The Goldman Sachs CEO is on television saying, we need to pass this financial regulatory bill. And what does it do? It erects global taxes to be paid to the bankers as a, quote, bailout. Oh, that will certainly show them. That will certainly get them, won't it? So, I'm going to play this video here in a moment, but here's just the latest. Trichet calls for corrupt BIS boss. Trichet calls for corrupt Bank of International Settlements to boss global government in CFR speech. ECB president tells insiders that secretive group of international bankers responsible to no nation state will become primary engine of world government. In a speech before the elitist Council on Foreign Relations Organization in New York earlier this week, President of the European Central Bank, Jean-Claude Trichet, called for the imposition of global governance to be bossed by the G20 and the corrupt Bank of International Settlements in the name of safeguarding the global economy. In an address entitled Global Governance Today, Trichet proclaims how the elite need to impose a set of rules, institutions, that's laws, and informal groupings, that means they can secretly do whatever they want, and cooperating mechanisms that we call global governance. This is a quote. During the course of the speech, Trichet used the term global governance well over a dozen times, outlining how global governance is of the essence to avoid another financial crisis. There's the financial terrorism. If you don't give us total power, we will destroy everything. And so, they need $150 billion now for Greece that Goldman Sachs on record engineered. And now a Goldman Sachs former executive is running the financial operation there with the government. Now Portugal's going down. We need hundreds of billions. Now all these other, taxpayers have got to give us money. When it's derivatives sold by the big brokerage firms to the governments in collusion to make money on the way up, bankrupt the countries on the way down, and get total banking dictatorship out of it. Again, they're all a bunch of Bernie Madoff types who need to be arrested. It's on record that the head of Goldman Sachs ordered his people to sell derivatives that they knew were, quote, SH-TY. Okay, it's on record, but no, we'll give them more power. That will show them. Section 1 of Trichet's speech is entitled, Why We Need Global Governance. And from then on, he constantly invokes the economic downturn as a justification for empowering secretive, undemocratic, and corrupt global institutions with the power to rule the world. That's the other point. If I get another email from a yuppie saying basically, well, it's time, like Star Trek, for us to have a global government and no more war and peace, and this is what humanity wants. Number one, in every poll, humanity doesn't want to lose sovereignty of their countries. Number two, this is a global government run by private corporations that in their own documents they admit are authoritarian. Remember last year, and now for world government, Financial Times of London headline by their foreign editor, where he said, yeah, we've been secretive. Yes, it's authoritarian, but it's for your own good. 2 weeks ago, the head of the Gaia movement, the top environmentalist in England, said, we need to have an undemocratic world government to enforce one-child policies and total control because the public's too stupid to do it. This is an authoritarian global corporate dictatorship that is being set up. And he also talks about in the speech, you can read the transcript and watch the whole video. We have it linked up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com in this article, where he says, we've been building this for a long time. We've got to go ahead with it now. Okay? So the world government is here. These guys give constant speeches. They run our government illegally. They're openly robbing everybody blind, and you can't get ABC News Nightline when they're here in your office, in our office. You can't even get them to stop laughing about it. laughing about Goldman Sachs, laughing about what's happening right now, laughing about the country falling apart. It is a joke. It doesn't exist. The video you're about to see doesn't exist, according to these people. Here is a snippet of it.